Good evening, Cubs and Cardinals fans. It's Thursday, July 12th. We took a week off and the whole damn world went crazy. There's chaos in the Cardinals locker room. There might be turnover in the front office. And Cubs fans just aren't satisfied despite being only a few games off the 2016 pace. We'll talk about all that and more as the Team of Rivals podcast starts now.
Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. There's the drive. Way back. It might be. It could be. Bringing a high drive into left. Back goes the Craig. He's at the track. He has it. He's the Cardinals World Champion for 2011. A little bouncer slowly toward Bryant. He will glove it toward Rizzo. It's in time, and the Chicago Cubs win the World Series.
This is the Team of Rivals podcast. No insiders, no anonymous sources, just passionate analysis from the bleacher seats. Here are your hosts, Ron, Pete, and Elliot.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's so good to be back. We took a week off. We're all rested, recharged, except for Ron. He went ahead and did another show in the week in between. But boy, things have been busy. I mean, God, the whole world blew up because Dex and Matheny don't get along, or maybe they do, or we don't know. But we're not going to talk about that because everybody else in the St. Louis Cardinals podcast world has already done so, and we're not going to cover that. But while you're here, thank you for watching us live. If you're out there on YouTube, give us an upvote and go ahead and subscribe so that you don't have to rely on remembering that we're going to do this. Also, you can find us at teamofrivalspodcast.com. On Facebook, you can search for Team of Rivals Podcast. We're on Twitter at Team of Rivals Pod and on Instagram at Team of Rivals Podcast. And obviously, don't forget to visit the team store on Zazzle. We're going to get into things baseball related in a moment. But before we jump in, I really need to address something that I am just stunned by and frankly quite disappointed. Ron, you're Mr. Star Wars. Of the three of us, you are Mr. Star Wars. How the hell did you, of all people, not know that Billy D. Williams is coming back?
Well, what do we have here? Yeah, I saw that on a tweet from Daniel, who we've done a show with, right? That combined show, Daniel Shoptaw from Meet Me at Musial on C70, and I saw that I saw him and Dan. Well, I saw the tweet from Dan Buffa first, and then I saw Daniel respond to that. I'm like, what? How did I miss this? Like, where did it come up? I didn't listen to my Rebel Force radio this weekend. I found it more and more challenging to find time because those guys did like a 2.5 hour show, and as soon as I saw the time on, I'm like, oh no way, I can't do it.
It wasn't news by then.
Oh,
so it wasn't in last week's episode.
Oh, okay, well,
it's only like 2 or 3 days old, but still,
I've had a baseball mind, man. I've been unplugged from Star Wars, strangely enough.
So disappointed.
I know,
especially given that the boy and I are almost done with season 6, man. We're 4 episodes in. Rebels is on the horizon.
It's awesome.
Excellent.
It's awesome. Matt, we don't know where you stand on Star Wars. In fact, I haven't introduced you yet, so don't say anything.
Go for it. We're done.
Obsessed since a child.
Oh, we love it. We love it. We love it. Hey, but before we get into that fandom here, I was introduced to, and I thought your name was Burns because that's how you set your name up on Facebook. I'm like, that's cool. He's got a name Burns, but it's Matthew T. Burns. Chris, it was actually refreshing to see somebody post something up on Cardinal Nation that wasn't negative, that wasn't, oh, woe is us type of thing. You had the Chug, what was it? I'm going to screw it up, Matt. It's your thing. It's your thing. Tell us what you did and tell us what you call it and tell us why you do it. I think it's great.
Sure. Yeah, I'd give a little hello there and welcome to Cardinals Corner. And, we do a little chug, keep it positive, talk about some fun stuff, and basically just trying to, pound one and have a little fun and hopefully put a little smile on the faces of so many sad Cardinals fans this year. Well, Just have
See,
a
and
little
I
fun
gotta
with it,
tell you,
basically.
I love the backdrop, man. That is some vintage Cardinals stuff, man. Massive props.
Thank
for
you
that.
very
Where
much.
did you where'd you manage to collect all that? Because obviously you're in our age range, so it's not. I would wager that a lot of that stuff is not original purchases by you. Where did you find all of that?
I've got some hand-me-downs. I want to point out my favorite one right here, though. This is a autograph book from the early 40s.
No way.
My grandmother-in-law, it's my wife's grandma. She was born and raised in St. Louis, and she used to hang out with Stan Musial and the crew from the 40s. And I just got lucky, kind of married, not married, but married into the relationship. I mean, I got Stan the Man in here and a handful of really cool autographs. It's one of my favorites. But yeah, a lot of the other stuff just collected along the way. People know I'm obsessed with the cards, and got a buddy that just found the Wizard. Pilgrims.
No, I like how there's no logo on that hat.
Thank you. Yeah, the Wizard. He's my all-time guy. So
yeah,
Mom got me this one actually, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, I've just been collecting it for years, and whenever I go to St. Louis, I got my Busch Stadium dirt right here, an actual jar of Busch Stadium dirt, like a nerd that I am.
Now, did you pay for that, or did you lean over the wall and just grab it?
Oh, I leaned over the wall.
Nice.
Very good. Yeah. That's real stuff. Now, was that that was from Busch Stadium too? I take it.
Yeah, it's from two. I wish it was from one. I've been to one a handful of times, but yeah, it's from two.
Okay. Well, I meant by Busch Stadium 2, the one they just tore down in 2000.
Oh no, yeah, no, not 2. It's from 3. My bad.
From
yeah,
3?
it's
no,
from
no,
3.
no. That's
right.
Yeah. I guess for a brief period of time, Sportsman's Park was called Busch Stadium before they built the
yes,
yeah, the what is called the cookie cutter style, which I missed that place.
You missed that place? Why?
Just something about it, man. When it's a place you went to when you were a kid and you saw those the arches all the way around. I actually played a high school or American Legion game on that field when it was still AstroTurf, which was awful. But yeah, when you go somewhere as a kid, there's things about the stadium, there's quirkiness about it that I do miss.
Yeah, that's 80s Cardinals baseball. I mean, that's a big good time in our history for sure.
All right, so gentlemen. You got a little.
He's trying to rush us. He's rushing us along.
Yeah, because I want to see you drink fast.
What, you've never had before?
No, I have. I just want to see it on the show. I mean, this is a throwback to what was it, episode 4?
Well, I never get that. Matt, what do you call this? Slumpbuster Chug?
Yeah, it was a Slumpbuster Chug. I started it. We were in a little bit of a losing streak, and that was kind of my thoughts on it. But yeah. Slumpbuster Chug. I mean, I guess we've lost one, so we can call it a mini slump. But more so just chugging.
It was against the
really.
White Sox. It was against the White Sox, so it counts for a lot more than a mini.
This is true. This is true.
Shut out, by the way.
White Sox.
Yes.
So I think if there's ever a time, Matt, it's right now. And so I know I've got an IPA I poured here. I've topped off my glass. It is a Budweiser. Just to pay, respects to the St. Louis area. What are you drinking? Tell me you're not okay. I was worried that you had a 16-ounce pint of scotch, but okay. So it's an IPA as well.
Nope, just sipping on the bourbon. Yeah.
Okay. How are we gonna do this? Are you guys gonna count down, one of you, or
right,
what?
Yeah.
I mean, now let me give you anybody backstory that's watching this right now that hasn't that didn't know about this. So I saw this video, loved it. And immediately, instead of saying, "Hey, man, you're awesome," my first reaction is, "I'll take you on." Probably not the smartest thing I've ever done, but nevertheless, that's what happened. So I'm going to try my best.
So you want us to count you down?
Count us down.
All right, Ron, are you frozen again? Really? Now? Of all time? Ron has
pre-chug freeze.
Oh my God. He's just teasing us, man. Oh, we're going to have to let him know here. Please pardon the clicking.
While this is happening,
let him know.
I'll just continue sipping on bourbon.
Yeah, you can continue stretching. That's fine.
So
no
do you still
arms.
Reside in St. Louis? Is that where you're still at?
Me?
Yes.
No,
he's
in
Long
fact,
Beach, right?
never have ever lived there. Dad grew up in Southern Illinois. Grandpa was stationed in just north of St. Louis for years, and Fort Wayne, I believe, and just a Midwest guy. Even though I've never even lived there, we pretty much go back every summer. Before I even knew anything, I knew Cardinals baseball, and so
where did you grow up?
I grew up in North Seattle.
You grew up in North Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And then what took you to Long Beach?
Moved down here, just life change, just kind of enjoy some nice weather, and been down here about 12 years. Haven't left. Found the love of my life, and we have a little baby, and yeah.
How old is your baby?
Well, she's 9 now.
Okay.
Wow.
All right.
No longer a baby.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
I think I dropped off there, and it wasn't on purpose, Matt.
You did. Yeah, no, we understand.
No problem. Oh, you're good.
Don't mind it. Ron was just coloring the outside of his glass so that it looks like it's still full.
That's cool. I got a nice head there on the top.
Ron, while you were gone, we got to have a little bit of Matt time, little Matt backstory. It's been fun.
I'll have to go back and watch it.
Okay, so am I gonna?
Yes.
Are we counting this down now? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah. Somebody count it down, some independent, and I'll try my best.
So I'll count down from 3. All right.
All right. Cheers.
I got a really good feeling about this.
3, 2, 1. Wow.
You gotta be kidding me.
Cheers.
Ron, you got to finish that.
Wow. Do
Can
we
you
have
give
the
me another?
Jeopardy music?
Woo! Yeah.
Man, did I even taste this thing?
All right. I thought I had a shot at that.
I thought you were going to make a game of it, man. That was disappointing.
I saw him put his glass up. I'm like, stop. You've just embarrassed yourself again. All right. Well, congratulations, sir. I challenge the best, and I yield.
Hey, I appreciate it. I've actually won money in bets on this before, so don't be ashamed of yourself by any means.
Don't hang your head.
I enjoyed the camaraderie.
Just keep trying. Just keep trying is what you're saying.
Now go finish that bourbon and hit a home run in your softball game.
Heck yeah.
Here comes another one. All right. Well, there you
my
go.
goodness. Pete, you said you wanted the winner. Go ahead. He certainly wouldn't do another one. We don't want to encourage this. This is kids. If you're watching at home, don't try this.
Irresponsible.
Yeah, this is for adults only. This is, yeah.
And Ron's son.
Those are pints, man. I had to not only to have to empty a beer, I had to pour like a third of another one on top of it.
Braden's going to call in.
There you go.
Dad, why didn't you give me a chance to take this guy on? I'm telling you, I could have taken him down much faster than Sung Wong Oh could have given up a home run.
That's his go-to right there. Yeah. If you don't know this, Matt, my son, he invades the show every now and then and
awesome.
Calls in. He's 13. He still likes to do it. There'll be a point though when he's like, Dad's talking about baseball again, loser. He doesn't even know baseball, man.
I took the
cool.
Marlins to the World Series.
Yeah.
On my that's right. Yes.
I had to
on
cut you,
PlayStation.
Dad.
He hasn't checked in on that MLB the show yet for a while anyway.
I know
so.
he's stopped giving us updates.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's get into baseball talk. Matt, we got Matt for a little bit longer on here. Matt, whenever you got I know you got a game, so whenever you got to cut out, man, just let us know.
Appreciate it.
But gentlemen, I know we've got. I'm just going to speak to the Cardinals right here. So they went on a went on a road trip, 9-game road trip. They had 3 in Arizona, 4 against San Francisco, 2 against the White Sox. Ended up 5-4. Normally, when you just look at it as a pure road trip, you're like, well, that's not terrible.
No.
But given who was there, it's like, damn. At a minimum, you felt like it should have been 6-3. 1 game better. It might not sound like much, but it just would show me that this team is in the mix. That's in striking distance, and
especially with the Jekyll and Hyde act against the White Sox.
Holy shit. I mean, that's been the story for like 2+ years. Matt, I want to hear your perspective on this. And this team has driven me nuts since the back half of 2015. I know they won 100 games that year, and I appreciate that. But I just don't see the edge anymore. I don't see the fight. that's missing for me. And I want to get your perspective. I know you're a distance away from St. Louis, but if you watch as many games as I try, I'm on the opposite coast.
I really miss a game. And I mean, I hate to be one of the many, you know, of our Cardinals nation kind of bringing up Matheny, but I feel it's cultural, you know. I mean, I'm all about having a guy with fire, and I feel like we just don't have a lot of passion. And you always got to say it starts at the top. It's tough to say, you know. We got a mix of young and old, but there's just a lack of mesh within the guys. I kind of feel like, for whatever reason it may be. I hate to just, again, you know, to bring up Matheny, but man, I feel like it starts at the top. Today's story that came out about the bullpen, and I'm sure you guys are probably going to maybe talk about that later, but with Bud Norris, and it was on ESPN. It was on Around the Horn. They were talking about it. I mean, so it amongst our Cardinals nation, people were saying, oh, it's being blown out of proportion, on and on and on. I kind of feel like it's a story that should have never even left the clubhouse. And the fact that something like that gets out is for me a sign that it's not being controlled from the top. And, you know, I've just chugged 2 16-ounce beers, but I do think I've got a little bit of a point on it. I don't think I'm crazy saying it. And
No, you're not.
I don't know. It's unprecedented for the Cardinals to fire a manager mid-season, but I think it would be a huge thing for our team. And I love the secret weapon. And I, for myself, was really sad when he wasn't the one that was hired, even though we also had a chance to get Frank Conan, and I think he would have done a great job too.
And you're referring to,
fiery
and you're talking about Jose Oquendo, the secret weapon.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Love him.
It would have been nice to see him have a chance, if not in St. Louis when they made that decision, somewhere, whether it be the Mets or somebody else. Because I think but I don't know that he wants that at this stage in his career as a coach.
Right.
We've definitely brought this subject on this show and the other show, the Cardinals Nation 24/7 podcast, about Jose Oquendo. Yes, if they did something mid-season, which I agree with you, that's not really, doesn't seem like something they would do. But if they did do that, I think Jose Oquendo, as much baseball as he has in him, as much as we love him in Cardinals Nation, what he does for our team, I think he's most valuable in the role he's in, though, because he can do that one-on-one instruction with players. You know, he can get into the weeds with them as a manager, as the whole head of the clubhouse. I don't know. He's been untested there, so we don't know.
This is true.
He's so valuable as an instructor that taking him out of that role and bringing him up to a little bit higher level, I mean, who knows? Who knows? I would love to see.
Sure.
Love to have seen the guy have the opportunity. So I'm totally with you on that.
Right.
But I think at this stage, for what they need right now, my mind goes Stubby Clapp, AAA. A lot of these young players have come up through him. So yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. That's not the only controversy, right? I mean, we had the whole Dexter Fowler thing the week before. So it's been, the hits just keep coming, man.
Yep. It's true.
This organization has a PR problem.
No doubt about it. Yeah. With Dex, man, it's unfortunate. I mean, I'm bummed about it. You know, all the money we're paying him and the lack of production he's showing. But for me, I can't be mad at the guy. I love him. He's on our team. I can't get upset with the players. You know, you can be upset with their performance, but some of our Cardinal Nation, man, they have been super negative on him, and it's really bumming me out. I got to say, because I think he's such a positive guy that if we can do anything we can to embrace him, I know he's going to bring a level of just, I hate to overuse the word, but positivity with throughout the clubhouse. You know, like guys are going to feel that energy, and he needs to be embraced.
Ask our guys from Chicago. Ask our guys here. I mean, they can tell you all about it. Right?
Yeah, sure. I mean, when Dexter first went into St. Louis, you know, there was some kind of stories saying that his goal was to kind of change that mindset from Cardinals fans that they're no fun by bringing some fun, and bringing smiles to the dugout, and kind of becoming a little laid back, not in the game, but it is a kid's game. He wanted to bring that fun back to Cardinals baseball that hasn't been there in so long, because it's been about business and this is the Cardinal way. But you can have fun too. I mean, you've been playing this since you were probably 10 years old or even earlier. I mean, Dex has got a big smile and he likes to show it because he likes to have fun. And I think there's just a bit of a culture clash in there between what Dex is about with his style of baseball and what the Cardinals style of baseball is in the dugout.
Yeah, I know we're getting into
and to hear something about the fact that him and MM aren't even on speaking terms.
Right.
And I hope that's absolute BS, but hey.
Yeah, I don't remember.
That's not a good.
I don't remember, Matt, where I read this today, but I've heard that that's another one of those things out there. And just like this Bud Norris and Jordan Hicks situation that's come up, that's not entirely true, that Mike Matheny texts these players. He texts them the starting lineup. Dex often, he doesn't shut them off. He often responds to them. So there's been conflicting things we've heard out there. I mean, who knows which is true, but yeah, I mean, but we don't know which one's true. We just know that the sexy thing to put out there is that they don't talk, and they haven't talked for months, right? We can all pretty much agree on that. That's the thing that will get a click.
Well, and but think about why it's so sexy, right? There certainly seems to be a foundation for that. Who was the guy who got? I'm completely blanking on who got sent down. What was it, last year or the year before? And said that he wasn't sure. He still wasn't exactly sure why he was being sent down. When he was
Aledmus Diaz.
Yeah. What we heard from, it was Grichuk earlier this year talking about how it was constantly hanging over players' heads, particularly the outfielders, that if they had a good game, they still weren't sure if they were going to be in the lineup the next day, and that it had nothing to do with matchups. It just had to do with who was or was not Matheny's favorite. I mean, time and time again, when you hear these stories, what seems to be clear is, one, Matheny's not real good with communication, and two, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of control, because Mark Saxon, despite the holes in both of these articles that he wrote, somebody's talking to him. He's not making this up out of whole cloth. And so either
he'd be dumb to, which is why I don't believe that it's all what he's reporting is not what he's actually heard from some source.
Right. He's just not getting it a second source, and he's not getting primary sources. He clearly didn't talk to, he got a no comment from Jordan Hicks, and he obviously didn't talk to Norris. So it seems to me that somebody or somebodies are not happy in that locker room, and they're talking to Saxon in an effort to, it would appear, get Matheny out of there.
Yeah, I totally agree. I want to do a quick check-in with Matt. Matt, how much time do you have? So I know you got to run. I want to
a few more minutes. Yeah, I got a couple of buddies that just showed up. They're out in my living room kind of listening in to me actually right now. A couple of my Dodgers, Angel, A's fan too actually is here. But they're here. They're waiting for me to.
All right. Well,
I got to write this. I got the lineup for tonight and do my best Whitey Herzog imitation. Note I say Whitey Herzog, not Mike Matheny.
Yep.
Yeah, you should set your you should take a cue from Joe Madden when he was with the Rays and set your lineup. Do the Jenny lineup, 8675309. You got a designated hitter, right?
Ooh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently he did that one time with the Rays.
Joe Madden coincidentally has a home right down the street from me.
No kidding.
He spends summers in Long Beach, and I haven't been able to cross paths with him, but apparently he hangs out at a local bar that I've been to before. I don't go there too often, but I've heard that he hangs out there, and he lives just a couple blocks up the street from there.
Excellent.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, well, pretty cool. Hey man, I so jealous of your guys' manager. I got to say.
Yeah, well,
he froze up.
The shine is coming off that rose.
Oh, he froze up. He looks good though.
Yep. He does. That if you're gonna freeze, man,
that
that's how you
looks good. Freeze. Yeah. I agree. So I don't know if he'll be able to jump back on. Hopefully he will. I know we had a segment we wanted to do here, so let's give him trying to give him another. I wanted to ask him some just general questions about the Cardinals before I know he had to hop off, but just take a still of that. That looks beautiful.
Oh my god!
Hold on, can I blow him up there? Hold on. Yeah, no, I can get him.
No, it goes to black.
As soon as I clicked it. I know. Why did I do that? Yeah. Oh, there he is again. We'll have to zoom in. Pete, you got a Mac. Zoom in on that.
Yeah, I do, but it's going to be pretty. Anyway,
But he's looking at us, and we all froze to him, and he's like, Midwesterners.
Right.
souls.
Well, he does kind of consider himself a Midwesterner, even though he's never lived in the Midwest.
He did, guys. He did kick my ass on that Chug. Jesus Christ!
No, it wasn't even.
Wasn't even close.
Well, I knew if I left that beer in the fridge, it would be freezing, and I wouldn't have got through a third of it. I took it out.
Oh my gosh!
Like 92 degrees down here, and I left it on the damn garage floor, like one of them. Like warm it up, man. I can't do it. But let's see if he's trying to touch it. Oh no, he dropped out.
So what do you say? Do we launch into it?
Give me 1 second here. Let's try to ping him one more time if he's
Well, while you're doing that, gentlemen, what'd you do with yourselves last week? I mean, Ron, I know you did another show, but how did you guys enjoy the 4th of July?
4th of July was good. I spent time with my family in Illinois. So my son and I spent an entire week with the parents at their pool, and I helped my dad out a little bit. So that's about it.
You're a nice guy, man.
He is a nice guy. Wait a minute. Did you help your dad out at the
I did. Because your feet are too fat, lady. You can't take the small shoes. Yes. And I refrained from saying that.
You returned home and you took your rightful place as the Earl of Sandwich. Is that
that's right.
Outstanding. All right, Joe.
What'd you do,
I got
Pete?
a screen cap, and it's actually not terrible, so I'll send it to you too. Ron, you can maybe attach this to the podcast tonight. Not a bad look.
I'm just hitting him.
How about you, Ron? You stick around town?
Yes, we did. We didn't go anywhere. We didn't do anything extravagant. It was that was you. Oh, you sent me the picture.
Of course I did.
I don't know if it was Matt trying to respond or what.
Sending a selfie.
I pinged him and said, "Hey, if you're still got a few more minutes, hit the camera icon on the invite originally sent. Jump back in." But hey, if it doesn't work out. I know we got business to attend to. But it's great. It was great having him on. I love seeing Cardinal fans like that. Has a whole corner of his basement, man cave, whatever. It's refreshing to see. And he put that video out at a really good time. And it did come at a key time on Cardinals Nation when everybody's just going batshit crazy. You know,
to say the least.
All hell was breaking loose. You know, nobody's happy in the clubhouse. They've got guys. We can tear this down all night. I know our next segment we're going to do that. We're going to do just that. But to see another fan like, guys, why are y'all stressed now? I'm going to chug a beer, get him out of the slump. Perfect timing.
Yeah,
I mean, it really was perfect timing. I want to see more stuff like that, and that's why I want one. Yes, I wanted to challenge him. I knew I was going to fail, but I wanted to get a fan on that had some personality, some flavor like him. So it was great having him on. Hopefully, he can jump back in for a minute or two. If not,
it was good having him. Matt, thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, definitely, man. And if you get a chance to
game tonight.
Yeah, hopefully we didn't ruin that. But yeah, definitely we're getting that guy back on again. Maybe. I don't know where he stands on this, but you know, if we all stick with National League, if it's National League, when the Brewers make the NLCS, maybe he can chug one for the Brewers. It might be hard to do for the Cubs. I don't know. I don't know where he stands on that. But being a West Coast guy, he might not have the same, you know, instinct inside myself that says I will never do that.
Right, yeah, guys. The Brewers aren't making the NLCS. They're not going to make it out. They're going to have to make it out of the one game playoff first.
I know, but we're going to ask a question that could shift that thinking here in a bit.
Sure, we can. All right. So, Ron, we're. I assume that you're all set there. You've got your finger on the audio button, and you're ready to queue up our newest segment. Something we're gonna try. And definitely, any of you who are watching or who are listening to this after the fact, please
don't try this at home.
Well,
yeah.
1, don't try this at home. 2, don't try this sober. And 3, let us know whether it's on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, or you can send a direct message to Elliot. Let us know what you think, because we're trying something new. We're trying to shake things up and keep ourselves because the magic's just gone out of our sex life, and we finally decided that it was time
speak
to
for
try
yourself.
Jeez, come on
about
now.
among the 3 of us. Hey,
come on.
Speaking of shaking
let's
things
get the segment going. Let's go.
Okay, let's get the segment going. Here we go.
Triple play.
Well, okay. Give it away.
Was I supposed to say that or not?
No, just play the cue.
Christ.
We're rolling.
Is this a triple play? You bet it is. The Cardinals with a triple play. The Scalzo gets the line drive, flips to second, and on to first.
All right, so it's our newest segment, Triple Play, where each of us has a topic that we'll talk about. We'll intro the segment and then ask for the input from the other 2 before the one who introed the segment will finally close it down. These should be relatively short, but we'll see. So, Ron, I know you're chomping at the bit, man. No, you're not.
I thought it would go middle. I thought it would be a Cardinal sandwich.
You know what? Since we've already kind of started on my topic this week, why don't we just go into mine? And
all right, let's dive into it.
Well, why don't you just insist that, Elliot?
I will. And we're going to talk about the Mark Saxon story that he wrote for The Athletic just the other day. And if you're kind of, I know we talked about it a little bit, but if you're kind of wondering what is this article about? So Mark Saxon wrote this story about how Mike Matheny has kind of pegged Bug Norris to be the veteran guy in the bullpen to police young guys and to teach them how to be a big leaguer. There's a lot of young guys in the bullpen. So the mindset from Matheny has been that baseball used to have teeth, and that's kind of what he wants to kind of see again, that some of this baseball is soft. And he wants Norris to bring this back. So now the article kind of focused on the relationship between Norris and Hicks, and there seems to be an annoyance that has become across from Norris badgering Hicks. And to be fair, we know that Hicks had been late for some meetings, or I think I read all meetings during spring training. So they were trying to get him into, hey man, you got to be on time for meetings. That you got to be there. There's no kind of being lackadaisy here. So, but Norris was kind of publicly calling out young players for mistakes that they were making, and some guys aren't sure if this was the way to kind of go about it. But the crazy part about the whole thing is that Norris reports back to Matheny on what's going on, and based on his report, fines are dished out to these guys. So, which if they're not complying with being on time or doing things the correct way. So now my question is, do you guys think this bodes well into bringing up the young talent and how to be a big leaguer, or does it create divisiveness in the clubhouse that could possibly be one of the reasons why the Cardinals haven't really been able to put it together this season?
First, I just want to say that if fines are being levied for things not being done the Cardinal way, these guys are bringing home what, Ron? Half their paychecks? Maybe.
Maybe. No, maybe.
Maybe. So it's your team, Ron. You go first, man.
Uh-oh.
He's back.
Oh, he's back.
Hey, sorry guys, I overheated. My bad.
He overheated.
I got a lamp.
Burns is back.
Here, one moment. I got to turn this fan off.
Well, if you're hot, don't turn it off, man. We don't want to.
Oh, it's hot. It's messing up sound, though. I know it is.
Yeah,
I apologize for cutting out so quickly.
No. We got a beautiful capture of your face. I mean, that beautiful beard and everything. We had it. I put it up on our. It might be our new profile picture. We don't know yet. We haven't talked about it. But
awesome.
No, we're glad you jumped back in. In fact, we're on a touchy subject right now, and that is the whole Jordan Hicks thing. But you might not have enough time for that, Matt, to address that fully. But real quickly, this whole Bud Norris, Jordan Hicks thing. How much of it do you really buy? I mean, Pete and Elliot just captured the whole scenario, the whole article written by The Athletic, the guy Mark Saxon. Do you feel that Bud Norris, yes, he might be enforcing veteran ways on young players, but do you think from reading this stuff that he overstepped the line? And more importantly, is he reporting to Mike Matheny what players are and aren't doing?
Yeah, I want to say it's definitely being overblown. I mean, it's got to be being overblown. But I feel like, again, this is a story we probably shouldn't even be hearing about, right? This is a situation that I appreciate a guy like Norris doing what he's doing, you know?
Yeah.
But why the heck are we finding out about this? I have a small problem, you know. If it stays like this, it's small. If it becomes more, then it becomes a big problem. Yeah, probably it is being overblown, and because of the tough season we're having, stories like this are catching fire more than they should be.
Right.
Yeah, a guy like Hicks, you know, people look at him, he's throwing 105, and well, why is somebody giving him a hard time? Yeah, I don't know. It's such a tough. I don't know. I don't want to make a definitive comment on it because I feel like I don't know. We probably, like I said, shouldn't have heard about this, but I doubt that it is as much as it is, especially with Hicks coming out and he's trying to get in front of it and saying, you know, Norris is a solid veteran and I support what he says and I disagree with these things that are coming out about it. But I do think there is something there. I do think there's something there. And I'm not saying it's that Norris is being inappropriate in any way or, you know, bullying, anything like that. I highly doubt that. But
or like a Richie Incognito situation.
Yes. Yeah. It ain't. Yeah. It's not that. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Good example of the kind of situation, but far from that. Right.
Brought up by me, by the way.
Well, I mean that.
Not
you know, that's an example that you know it's being looked at as a bullying type of thing, and this climate we're in the world we're in right now, and things like that are coming up and that are becoming more prevalent, and you know, it's something that has to be looked at, but we can't look at it for too long, I don't think, unless it's you know, really a true situation that is causing a problem on the team, which I just don't think it's gonna.
Well, Matt, for me, this one strikes me as there was no smoke, so how was there fire there about the whole situation?
Right.
Like we never knew or heard about any of it, and all of a sudden it's brought up. Now it doesn't mean it's not real, but I just really find that one as many media people as you have just surrounding players day in and day out. In the clubhouse and the visitors lounges and the hallways. I mean, these players have access to so many social media outlets by themselves. They don't need help. I mean, they can go right on Twitter anywhere and get the word out. So this one surprises me a lot, but I wouldn't be shocked to hear that this is a typical situation where a veteran is seeing a young player that has all the talent in the world, but just isn't putting the focus or energy into it that the veteran knows he needs to maximize his ability.
Yeah,
I think that's what
he almost didn't break camp with the Cardinals because he was sent to minor league camp because he was meetings chronically. This was not a one-off kind of thing.
But it's amazing how when stories like this get written, they skip over all those details and they go for the click headline. And the unfortunate part about it, and this is every fan base, not just Cardinal fan base, is that we tend to overreact over the headline without even reading the article.
Right. And I think that in this case, that's particularly true, is that so much of the fan base has, and I'm not going to defend him. I mean, you know, I've been asking you this since we started this show.
Yeah.
So much of the fan base now has an anti-Matheny bias that they're looking for any reason to ship him out the door. And I think that this may have fed into it a little because, granted, Saxon does use some inflammatory language in the way that he describes the way that Norris is doing things. And he only gives one example of how Norris is cracking down in the bullpen,
Mhm.
and that's related to Jordan Hicks. But he doesn't give a lot of specific examples.
No,
And if you
he
just
doesn't.
if you strip the language out of it and just look at it as a straight reporting of facts, this really isn't that big a deal.
What was
This-
the word
I'm
he
sure
used?
this
What
happens
was the
time-
Pete? What was the word he used to describe his enforcement of veteran ways? Wasn't it like extreme?
Yeah. He called
Was that the word he
extreme.
used?
Called it extreme. He called it old school. He did actually. I don't think he referred to it as bullying, but other people have insinuated that through the what they've read. And
what Mark Saxon said was, he says Matheny sees Norris's actions as an effort to carry on the dying tradition of teaching young players in the harshest possible ways. I mean,
harshest. Yes.
That makes it seem like he is being cruel to these guys on purpose to teach them lessons of, hey, you're gonna do it this way, or you're done, or you're going to pay the price.
And that's where you actually have a problem. And this is the editor's fault. And I would imagine that Mark Saxon is being called on the carpet because he hasn't tweeted anything in 13 hours. And that is not his MO. He's pretty active on Twitter. So I would imagine that he's probably in a little bit of a timeout. But if you're going to say that somebody is doing things in the harshest possible way, then you need to give an example. And there are actually no examples of what Bud Norris is doing other than reporting to Mike Matheny on kangaroo court violations.
Right.
There's not one bit of specifics in that article about what Bud Norris has done. And so I tend to think that this is probably a case of the team is in turmoil. The fan base is unhappy. And so people are reading into it, are reading into something that is probably happening in every single clubhouse in Major League Baseball. You cannot tell me that John Lester and Anthony Rizzo are not salty with the guys who come up from AAA for the Cubs.
Sure.
John Lester does not come across as, Mr. Touchy-feely.
He's not going to be the first one to welcome you. Hey, welcome up, kid.
No, he's pissed off that he wakes up in the morning. But
whoa. Do you have is that Lester or Arrieta? I'm confused.
No, Lester is pissed off, or I'm sorry, Arrieta's pissed off that he's alive. He's not pissed off that he wakes up in the morning. But I mean,
true. It's true, Matt. I've studied.
But I mean, when you look,
damn it, I love either one of them. Sorry.
No, I know I would too.
But that's the kind of discipline that I'm sure is happening in every winning Major League clubhouse and every clubhouse that aspires to be a winning clubhouse. And let's not forget, unless I'm mistaken, the Cardinals are above 500. So it is a winning clubhouse. But I think that people are just reading into this situation what they want to. But to get back to what I said earlier, I think it is a troubling sign that there are problems in that clubhouse, and that there are people within that clubhouse who seem to be actively working against Mike Matheny, obviously in hopes of getting him out.
Yeah, and Pete, I mean, you've heard me say this for well over a year, right? That I have had concerns about that clubhouse and the chemistry, and I'll put this to you, Matt, and ask you what you've seen. Look, I remember the years when the camera would pan over to the dugout, and it might all be teddy bears and gumdrops over there, but you saw players talking to each other. You saw Albert talking to another player, mimicking swings, doing all kinds of things. Over the last 2+ years, I don't see the same thing over in that dugout. Take the conga line out of it, which I actually enjoy seeing them do something in the dugout that's positive. I mean, but you take all that stuff out, I see a very stoic, very people that are afraid to have fun type of thing. It's not been very Cardinal-like over the last 2 years. Take the conga line out this year. And I've had a major concern over the mental state of the team, of the clubhouse. Now, I know winning can change a lot of things, but this makeup that you brought up earlier about the meshing, I have a major concern of that. So I'm curious to hear what you think watching all this stuff from afar. Like me, I'm on the East Coast.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely groups. It seems like I mean, I'm not going to say multiple, but yeah, you're not seeing the camaraderie that used to be there. And for whatever reason, we can all have our obvious reason, the guy in charge. But Yeah, the conga line, it was great for a while, but it began to almost seem artificial in a way. And I hate saying that as a Cards fan because I enjoyed it when they started doing it. But yeah, you just don't get that sense of genuine camaraderie throughout the guys, where they're like really just in a lull, they're okay. In a high, they're okay. Maybe they're not getting too high, you know. Sometimes with Carlos, I'm wondering where's his head at, and I love him to death. And he's just an example of, I don't know, a guy maybe just, and I'm not saying I want to say goodbye to Carlos in any way. That's not at all what I'm saying. I feel like there's been moments throughout the season where it's like he's an example of a guy that's just not meshing, you know, with the crew for whatever reason. I don't know. It's so tough for me to talk about because it really just bums me out so much. But yeah, we're clearly not a unit.
Well, you know what the perfect fix for that is to ask a Cub fan, Pete.
Yeah. You know, I've already.
Okay. Well, thank you, Pete.
Yeah. No, you're welcome. Actually, I think the person who needs to give their take here is the person who introduced the topic, Elliot. Give us a definitive take.
Camera's on you, buddy.
You know, after reading the article, I can see both sides of it. If somebody is talking and telling Mark Saxon this information and there is some validity to this, that kind of sucks. You know, I don't see, the thing is not everybody responds to the kind of criticism that maybe Bud Norris is giving these guys, or the way that he's teaching it, the old ways, and, you know, being cruel or being harsh with these guys. But on the other side, you're right. This could all just be totally blown out of proportion and being a way to put bad news on Matheny to try to get him out of there before the end of the season. But at first glance of reading it, I'm like, I kind of had that feeling of, well, that is totally not a clubhouse I would want to be a part of. If that's the way things are run and it's coming directly from Mike Matheny and he's okay with this, then no, I think that would be a shitty place to be. And some of these players have got to be like, this sucks, and probably not giving the effort that they probably could be giving because they have a little bit of animosity towards some of the players that are treating them like shit. And when there's that animosity between players or coworkers, then you're not going to do everything you can to help the whole team as a whole. And maybe that's possibly where some of this stuff is stemming from in the dugout and in the clubhouse. On the other hand, it just could be bad baseball is being played, and this just isn't the year for some of these guys. And that's kind of where how I felt after reading this article. So,
Matt, do you have a comment on that?
No, I mean, he's dead on. I mean, you know, you see the problems we're having. You look at the issues. You hear about Matheny. You see the ups and the downs we've been. You know, we have a 14-run game. We have a no-run game. How does that happen back to back? And we're not going against one of the top stars in the league. I mean, he was a solid pitcher we went up against, but we shouldn't have games like that back to back. And I think it does relate to the issues that he's talking about. He makes some great points. And
Mike Matheny is the bipolar attitude in the clubhouse. Some days you're high, some days you're low.
Well, I don't know if I totally agree with that, because I think Mike Matheny's pretty like,
right.
I think he's on the same plane every day, no matter what. Right? Yeah, that's probably what you were mocking.
And I'm sure there's players that they'll get sick of it and they'll try to bring everybody together. Hey, come on, guys. We need to figure this out. And then some days we're like, fuck this shit, I'm out of here. You know, sort of attitude. Like,
over it, yeah.
I have 0 F's to give today, and so I'm just gonna jog after this ball into the gap today.
Pete, play the Elliott clip.
Which one?
Shoes.
Shoes?
Because your feet are too fat, lady. You can't take the small shoes. That's right.
Yes.
Hey, I'm so sorry, guys. I got to cut out. I apologize.
No, you're good.
I had so much fun. I'm almost going to be late to stuff because I'm having so much fun. Thank you guys like so much for letting me be a part of this. Thank you, Ron. I really, really, truly appreciate it. And it's really nice meeting you guys as well.
Yeah, you
had
too, Matt.
Way too much fun.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming on the
Matt,
show.
you'll be back on again. Trust me.
Absolutely. Good luck
Awesome,
tonight.
back on.
man.
And go set that lineup, man. You got 30 minutes probably to get ready.
Yeah, I know. It's true. It's true.
Have
Hit a
some-
home run for Ron.
And we want a video so we can play it on the website.
Yes.
Coming in. It's coming. It's going to happen.
All right.
All right,
All right,
cool.
Thanks,
All right, buddy.
guys.
Good having
Have
you
a
on.
great night.
All right.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
All right. So that's the first out. Ron, how about you take that second out in the Cardinals sandwich?
All right. Well, this goes along with the whole Matheny thing we were just talking about, and that is, the health, the direction, the everything to do with what the Cardinals are doing right now, where they could go. And can we still hear him?
Yeah.
What if he says those guys are a bunch of dicks right now?
He said they were not so. Just mute him and move forward.
I did.
Good man.
Yeah, he seems like a pretty genuine guy. Love the beard. Love the corner.
That was awesome.
It was awesome. Getting back to Matheny though, with that whole organization, with the direction they're going, with the energy we see as fans, it's just really hard to fathom how they continue to go down this path. How Bill DeWitt, the owner, he's talk about ticket sales all you want. Talk about attendance, like actual attendance, people that actually walk through the turnstiles. It is down. I know it's down across baseball, but it is down in St. Louis. The stories that have gotten out, how many times can stories get out like this of Fowler, of Jordan Hicks and Bud Norris?
And let's not forget that Fowler ultimately at the center of that was not Mike Matheny. It was John Mozeliak.
Yeah.
Very true.
Mozeliak was the one.
Very,
that
very
picked
true.
that
But a
up.
byproduct was that, Matheny and Fowler haven't talked for months, right? That was kind of one of the.
That came out in the wake of Mozeliak's comments, and I have to think that was probably what spurred Saxon to do that
Sure. Yeah.
investigation.
Right. Which, if you believe other reports, that's not true. That they do talk. I personally think men existing this close for this long, I mean, they go on trips together. They are at the ballpark for so many hours. I find it hard to believe that you could go over a month without talking to your manager. It just doesn't seem possible to me. So a couple conspiracy things that pop up and all these things that we've talked about tonight. Just go back to the Saxon report. I know we're talking about Matheny. That was my topic. But if you go back to this whole Bud Norris, Jordan Hicks thing, a lot of conspiracy shit there that I feel like I'm hearing. There's a snitch. There's an endorsed and paid snitch that comes back to Matheny after every day and said, "Here, this is what these players did. This is what these players didn't do." I know veterans can police things, but I find it really hard to believe veterans do that kind of thing. I just can't imagine a veteran like an Adam Wainwright or Matt Carpenter. And we don't know Bud Norris as well because he's new to us, but I find that very far-fetched. It just feels far-fetched that could actually happen in a major league organization. If it's true, it's embarrassing as hell. And that should 100% come back on Matheny. For even sanctioning anything like that. It just seems ridiculous. So I don't know. I don't know how you guys feel, but part of that story just seems really far-fetched. It seems science fiction. And that's not just me being yes, I'm a Cardinal fan. That's not just me being in denial. You guys know that I think if they're well on their way to exiting the Mike Matheny era, so I have no loyalty to keeping him around. I think he's had his time. He's had his chances. He cannot get a clubhouse to unite. He can't get through to players. If he has a problem communicating, well, that's a whole nother thing. But I just don't think his message is being accepted by the current crew. They also have a roster problem, which is, in his defense, that the roster is just poor. They don't have enough talent. They're not gelling. Those are things maybe outside of his control to an extent, but I just think if they're gonna scrub this thing down, they've got to take a whole new direction and go somewhere else. So my topic tonight was if they miss the playoffs this year again, which they're well on their way to doing. Not only Mike Matheny, but I think John Mozeliak, Mike Gersh, all those guys have to be they have to admit accountability to all of this. I think that there will be a new manager in the dugout next year. So outsiders, please unite. Or chime in or say something.
It's frustrating as an outsider to watch because one, I would like to see some decent baseball coming out of St. Louis just to make the NL Central interesting. I mean, the only team really make it interesting right now from the bottom is the Cincinnati Reds. I mean,
they gave you a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, they do. They've got some serious good young pitching and they've got some hitters, man. But I mean, I don't think changing just Mike Matheny is going to change what's going on with the players.
I agree. It's not.
I believe fully there needs to be a culture change. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of it. I think everybody in the organization is trying to hold on to this Cardinal way thing that has been going on for the last 25 years or so, since before Tony La Russa. I think they need to kind of not even kind of. I feel like it's oil and water with a lot of these players, and you're right. I mean, they're not meshing. They're not. I feel like they're not getting along. I mean, yeah. So I mean, there's certain players I think that gravitate towards each other, but I just feel like there's that mesh isn't there. I don't know. It's really hard to pinpoint one thing. I think it's a bunch of things. I think it's the way the organization's run. I think it's a culture thing, and I think it's the way that the manager, brings everything together. And it's got to be difficult. So I don't know. It's kind of tough to answer because you can take it from many different angles, and I'm trying to kind of hit on all of them. That's what I think. I don't know.
Pete.
I tell you, I think that ultimately it really does come down to the worst of all worlds. And I think that the Cardinals' current record is a testament to the fact that there is talent on this roster, but it just isn't coming together. As Elliot said, it's not meshing. As we go to tape, the Cardinals are 47-44. They're an above 500 team, and they probably, I would imagine, will finish above 500 for the season. But in all, realistic consideration, they're probably not going to make the playoffs. They're going to miss the playoffs for the third year in a row. And so the question is why? And as much of a problem as I have with Mike Matheny, just as an outsider looking in, the reason I think that this is the worst of all worlds is that there's poor roster construction, and so you're giving a badly built team to a manager who is just not up to the task of managing a Major League Baseball team. And so the fact that they are 47-44 really is ultimately a miracle, because you look at the roster, everybody expected the Cardinals to have one of the best outfields in baseball. And I think you could argue, and yeah, you could argue that they have one of the worst outfields in baseball. They have a second baseman who up until recently has been all defense and no hit. You had a guy who you made a big splash for in the offseason, who had a hot streak in the month of June, but just has not lived up to the hype. that everybody was expecting, both especially offensively, but also defensively. Marcell Ozuna has not looked like a Gold Glove left fielder in any way, shape, or form. And so you have a roster that was poorly constructed, that does not have those one or two stars that it seems that every playoff contender has, and then has a complementary roster built around them. Instead, it sounds a lot like, or it looks a lot like what you said, Ron. You have a roster full of complementary players, and there's nobody on the pitching staff, and there's nobody in the position staff that is a star around whom you build. And ultimately, Mike Matheny doesn't know what to do with the pieces that he's been given, but this does not fall entirely at his feet. John Mozeliak, you can't even throw Gershon on this one. He's got nothing to do with this. John Mozeliak has not put together a quality major league roster. And you can talk all you want about all the promising young talent that the Cardinals have in the minors, but that doesn't do shit for your major league team. You either need to bring them up or you need to trade them for major league quality pieces. But just having them down in the minors and saying that you have one of the best farm systems in baseball doesn't win championships.
No, and you're absolutely right. And we've heard that for too many years that we expect these guys to come up and they'll be, I think it's war by attrition, that out of all these prospects we have, certainly there are one or two that will be cornerstones. Under normal circumstances, that gets guys fired for betting on that. And when it never happens, but for St. Louis, for some reason, it seems that Mike Matheny and Mo get too long of a leash compared to other organizations that we've seen over the years. And you're right, Pete. I mean, you've heard me say the same thing, that I've been skeptical of this roster for a long time. They've lacked core players. I mean, they really have. They've asked guys that aren't core players. I'm sorry. I mean, people will disagree with me. I know Matt Carpenter's had a terrific 2 months. Love what he's done. He is not a core player. You've asked him to be for 2 years in a row now, and he hasn't been. And you have not replaced, you have not brought in that 3-hole hitter. You don't have it in your system, yet you're reluctant to trade away any of the excess you say you have in the minor leagues. And so they're not making the moves to improve themselves. The moves they do make largely have not worked out over the last couple of years. The exception would be Miles Michaelis. The exception would be Bud Norris. Don't just point your compass there. Look at all the other things. Brett Cecil.
Mike
Leake. Exactly. Yeah, good. I'm glad you brought that up. Dexter Fowler.
Yeah, and that's one, had we done a show last week, I would have definitely gotten into. But, if there was one question that I could get John Mozeliak to answer, it would be, why did you sign Dexter Fowler? Honestly, why did you sign him to a huge 5-year contract? Everybody agrees that the Cardinals, and even last year, that the Cardinals had a surplus of talented young outfielders in their minor league system. So do you know your minor league system better than anybody else?
With a no trade clause.
Right, and you gave them a no trade clause. Do you think that your minor league outfielders are actually not that good? And you already have somebody who has proven that he hits best when he's in the leadoff spot. So then what are you putting Dex in for? You did not sign him to be a 3-hole hitter. Seriously, is the reason that John Mozeliak signed Dexter Fowler simply to thumb his nose at the Cubs? Because that's really what it looks like right now.
There would have to be
all that it looks like.
I've debated that too, and I've had many Cardinal fans say, no, that is not why they did that. But there is a percentage of the reason. There's a share of the reason of why John Mozeliak signed Dexter Fowler, and you would be a fool to say none of it had to do with thumbing their nose at the Cubs, as you just said, because the Cubs signed away Jason Hayward, signed away John Lackey, brought in John Jay for a brief period of time. I mean, you'd be a fool to say that it had nothing to do with it.
And that's not what winning organizations do.
It is not what. No, it's not. It's not.
The
Now-
Yankees didn't sign Johnny Damon because they were trying to get under the Red Sox skin. They signed Johnny Damon because they legitimately thought that that was a move that was going to put them over the top and win them the World Series.
Right, and they don't have a Bernie Williams anymore at that point. So, I just think this. I mean, I think was there could there have been a legitimate need or want to bring Dexter in? And I think Pete, the other part of this was Matt Carpenter's been so damn good at leadoff that why couldn't he take over the 3-hole? Like, he's been so good. Why can't he hit the same way there? So we bring in a leadoff guy, allow us to slide Carpenter into the 3-hole, and certainly he'll bat the same way. And then we'll have our lineup. We'll have a high on base percentage, crew, et cetera, et cetera. But it never worked out. Matt Carpenter cannot bat anywhere but leadoff. And the Cardinals did that to him, by the way. They actually made him a leadoff guy. They actually made him a second baseman. So that's the product of their own design, and they have to live with that. So it's not going to last very much longer. I mean, the guy's he's 32, 33 years old. How long do 33-year-old leadoff guys last in the major leagues?
Even ones who are playing at the top of the game,
right?
Which clearly
he's playing. He's too well for the last 2 months. He's been one of the best players in the National League. He's been one of the best bats, but he can only do that at leadoff.
Right. Yeah, I wonder how long it is before.
Oh, I just saw my British guy just texted me about the English losing 2 days ago.
It's coming home, boys.
I wonder how much longer it is before the Cardinals just eat it and say this isn't working.
You know what? Right now, the Cardinals remind me
Dexter. Pete, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
I think it's over the offseason. I think it's either one. I mean, I think it's a long shot, but it's an exchange for another bad contract, or it's like, you know what, fine, we'll eat 60-70% of it. And you got a guy.
And I forget who it was. It was last week, but I'll throw this out at you. And I don't even know that this is a move that this front office makes. You want to trade bad contract for bad contract? Dexter Fowler for Albert Pujols.
I would take that. I would. And here's why. About the same amount of time left. I think Albert has one more year beyond Dex, or is it equal?
I don't know.
I think it's equal. I think it's equal after this year.
You're going to take a 50-year-old Albert Pujols?
Is he 50?
It depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ask his doctor, or I personally would do that. I do it right now.
Just as much production out of him as you are out of Dax. It certainly clears things up in the outfield.
Yeah.
But then I guess Jose Martinez is the odd man out in that case.
Jose Martinez's value will never be higher than it is right now.
So there you go. Dax and Jose Martinez for Pujols.
It would take probably another arm or something for that.
Yeah, and you get somebody either in for the bullpen, or you get somebody out of their minor league system.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I think, I don't know. I can't speak for Cardinal fans, but if we had to ship Dex off and Albert Pujols was returning, I'm pretty sure most Cardinal fans would be like, fine.
Yeah.
I think if nothing else, it would be some sort of tie back, some sort of leadership, some kind of like atmospheric change, even though we know who Albert is now. Like, he's greatly diminished. We know we're not going to get the same one back. You might get him for like spurts at a time where he might look like who he was, but you're not going to get that for a whole year. But I think a lot of Cardinal fans would be like, fine.
All right.
I know I would. I know I would. I mean, if he was back there, it'd be at least some sort of a tie into the years when they had an edge, when they knew how to compete well. They knew how to do it for 9 innings, that they didn't, get their feathers ruffled over, another manager calling them out or another team calling them out. I mean, I just think they've lacked that a lot, and these don't have that. They don't have that leadership from their manager. They don't have that leadership from the front office. So you know what? It might be laughable, but I don't think it would hurt.
All right, so out number 2. So then let's move on to out number 3, and this one is mine. 2 years ago, the Cubs charged out of the gate on their way to winning their first World Series in 108 years. At the All-Star break, they were 53-35. They stumbled into the break after, I believe it was 19 or 20 games straight without a day off. They did not play well going into the break, but still they led the Central Division into break with a 53-35 record. This year, after being up and down for much of the first month and a half of the season, the Cubs are now 52-38 heading into San Diego, going into the All-Star break. So conceivably, if they could manage to sweep the Cardinals Rule 5 squad, they could be 55-38 going into the break. So the question I ask, Elliot and Ron, why are Cubs fans so freaking nervous about this team?
I think they're nervous because of the starting pitching. Up until a couple days ago, until you saw a great performance from Kyle Hendricks, a nice performance from Jose Quintana, the only starting pitcher that was actually performing is John Lester. Now, Cubs fans have high expectations for this team, as they should. And right now, there's been kind of question marks about the quality of the starting pitching, but there's also, I think, an underlying worry of performances from Anthony Rizzo and Chris Bryant. Now, I know, I think the Chris Bryant worries are kind of unfounded. He's going to be fine. But there's worry with Rizzo. Because if he's not performing, I don't think the Cubs can make the run. He's going to pull out of it. I mean, we've seen flashes of it. He's always been a consistent performer. I mean, he's still on pace for over 100 RBIs. He's still on pace to do some, to hit his 30 home runs. It's being picked up by some of the younger guys. We are, and the scary part is that without Rizzo and Bryant's performances right now, we're still at this point of where we are because we are seeing great baseball from Addison Russell. We're seeing Baez with this great breakout year. Kyle Schwarber is not only playing some of the best left field defense in baseball, he's hitting good. I mean, yeah, he's not knocking the ball off the cover.
Is he a monster yet?
Is he a monster yet? He's hitting around 250, but he's the homers are there.
Elliot,
is he a monster?
Is he a monster yet?
Are we talking size, or are we?
He's definitely not a
performance
monster when it comes to size.
No. I mean,
let's see what he does in the home run derby.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's see how him and Baez ruin their swing in the home run derby.
I'm going to come back to that, and then I want to get back on topic.
Right. So
you can't ruin the swing of somebody who will swing at anything.
Yeah, I know.
Vladimir Guerrero never got ruined by a home run derby.
No.
So
Baez will be fine in the home run derby.
And then you're seeing a great year from Jason Hayward. So, and Zobrist is kind of back to himself. So I think the true underlying issue is we know they can be better. We know they should be playing better. Cubs fans feel like they should be in first right now behind the freaking Brewers, And I think that's where it is. We're in second place right now in the NL Central, and everybody's like, "What is this shit? We should be in first. We should be playing much better than where we're at." But hey, we're at the break. We're at almost halfway through the season. There's still a whole nother half of season for the Brewers to lay down and die.
It's only a game separating.
Right. I mean, they got their asses kicked tonight by the Pirates. Yeah. So I think Cubs fans need to take a breath, enjoy watching these games, and then, really, if we're in the same spot at the end of September, then it's time to get nervous. So,
Ron, as the outsider, why are Cubs fans freaking out, being only a couple of games off the pace of a team that won 103 games in the regular season and the World Series?
I think it's because I don't mean this in a bad way at all. It's just, I mean this in a very real way, is that when you see your team like be on top of the mountain for a year, really be minimally challenged in 2016, like you think in your mind the only way for them to be successful is they show that same level of dominance this year, which they're not yet, but they have that potential. So everybody who's new to this, I'm not going to go say that people have jumped on the Cubs bandwagon, because there are a lot of people that have rooted for them for years, but all of a sudden, like 2016 happened, and all of a sudden a new thing was ignited in their fandom. But that's what they saw, and so they think if they don't see the same like dominance, that the Cubs are bad. Like they're, we gotta trade this guy, we gotta trade that guy, we gotta get Manny Machado in here, or we're done. I think it's just a reaction to something that most people aren't used to, and that's seeing that your team is fine, and they'll figure it out, and they have enough talent to get there. But people that have been like tepid on this or novice on this are going to panic a little bit more, because they just don't know that this is the way baseball is. So that's my best explanation for it, Pete. And I don't mean that to disparage anybody. I just say that people that were used to the Cubs being really good in 2016 aren't seeing the exact same thing repeated, so they think the sky is falling.
Well, I'll give my
and you and I know better. You and I know better. Like
Yep.
Yeah. So go ahead.
I'll give my definitive take on it. I think you're right a little bit there, Ron. You have a lot of people who are relatively new to the Cubs and who don't buy into Joe Maddon's reputation of his second half teams being not among the best, but the best in baseball. And that's not just the Cubs. That's the Rays. That's the Angels. Every team that he's been with, that he's been able to exert a significant influence on, have been ridiculously good in the second half. And I'm talking like, unless I'm mistaken, I think it's playing at a 600 clip in the second half of the season. And I think that you have a lot of people who are relatively new to the team who don't think that that's sustainable. They saw it in 2016. They saw it again last year. They certainly saw it in 2015. And I think that they're worried that at some point it's going to come up short. And this isn't the year to come up short, because the Brewers are better than they were last year. And last year they had a 5.5 game lead. And if they're better than they were this year and the Cubs are a game behind them at the break, I think the fear is that they're not going to be able to catch up. It also doesn't help that you look over to the other league and you see 3 teams that are currently, actually 4, that are currently playing outstanding baseball.
Right.
And I think that you have a number of Cubs fans who can't differentiate the difference between the regular season and the postseason, and think that if the Cubs even make it into the postseason and somehow manage to fight their way through the National League Series, they're going to run into a buzzsaw, whether it's the Astros, the Red Sox, the Yankees, or the A's.
Well, I got to say right now, I know Cardinal fans some Cardinal fans won't like me saying this, but the Cubs get into the playoffs, which they're high probability at this point. I don't really see a team with an equal amount of talent that's going to be able to stop them. Now, I will say that Washington is the wild card, that if they get in, they have the arms, right? They have the arms to be able to potentially shut the Cubs down. I don't think the Dodgers do at this point. So I think the Cubs' probability of being able to reach that level into the World Series is, if I had to put my house down on it right now, I'd say, like, you know what? They probably have the best chance if you had to bet today. But I think I know where you're going with this. You look at some of those American League teams like the Yankees, like the Red Sox. Yeah, those are teams you're looking at right now, or Astros. I didn't mean to leave them out, but you look at those guys and you're like, okay, we can make it that far, but can we overcome that? And that becomes the source for people that look a little bit past the regular season and go, that's going to be hard to overcome. We don't think we have enough to get over that. And so that's where you guys are thinking, maybe, I'm guessing, you guys are thinking if we need to make a move or an adjustment, we need to be thinking about those guys, not the Brewers.
Because the Brewers certainly have holes. They've been playing well, but
Yeah.
they have a problem at shortstop. They have a problem at catcher. They have a problem in their starting rotation. That is not a perfect team. They have just been playing.
No, they've
And well above their.
they have beaten who they should beat,
Right.
and that's why they're out ahead a bit. Like they're trending out ahead. But you know what? Once they start facing a stretch of games where they're facing teams that don't have the holes,
right?
You know, that's when I believe they're going to be exposed. So I don't know the Brewers' schedule, but I would guess at some point in time that they are going to play a stretch of 20 some odd games where they're going to finish at 500 or under, and anybody who's near them can have that chance to leapfrog and take this.
Well, and really what you need to look at it is look at their head-to-head against the Cubs. It's a team well put together that they have lost. What is it? 7 out of 10 they've lost to the Cubs, somewhere around there. I mean, at one point the Cubs were 8-1 against the Brewers. So
yeah, you look at it right now. According to TeamRankings.com, the Brewers have played the 6th softest schedule to this point in baseball. That's not good.
What's their second half look like?
5th, by the way, is the Cardinals. Just saying.
What?
5th softest schedule so far this season is the Cardinals. To date.
Right. I'm glad you corrected yourself there. Yep. I was wanting to play something for you guys, and so you guys keep talking about Cubs shit for a second.
You know what? Rather than talking about Cubs shit, why don't we listen to this?
I am ready to declare I am fully on board the Jason Hayward bandwagon. Come join me, Cubs Nation.
Just filling some time there, Ron.
Really, yeah.
It sounded just really disturbing. Like it sounded like tortured. Like somebody had a gun. Somebody had a gun to the back of your head, and they were like making you say that.
That was because you kept interrupting.
Play it again.
That was like my 6th take.
Play it again, and envision somebody from Vladimir Putin's KGB had a gun to the back of Pete's head. Go ahead and say it.
I am ready to declare I am fully on board the Jason Hayward bandwagon. Come join me, Cubs Nation.
No, that's definitely not under threat of duress. If that
it kind of sounded like it was to me.
No, if that was done, I mean, think about it. With the videos that you've seen, if that was done in North Korea or Russia or communist China, that would have been more along the lines of, I am ready to declare I am, after a full season of having done well, I am fully on board with the Jason Hayward bandwagon. Come join me, Cubs Nation. It would have been far more monotone. There wouldn't have been the emotion. Because I am on board, man. Jason Hayward should have made the All-Star team.
I'm never going to find the clip, but Bernie Miklasz, writer for 101 ESPN, St. Louis, has his radio show, puts out the podcast, listening to it on the drive home tonight. He pointed out an example of when the worm turned between the Cubs and the Cardinals rivalry. And he pointed at, he was looking at Joe Madden, he was looking at Mike Matheny. Example, I don't actually remember this event. I remember the Joe Madden press conference after this. Maybe you guys remember. Maybe you guys can enlighten me on this.
Yeah, he bought shots afterwards.
No.
Not the intro.
You shut your mouth. There was a series somewhere mid-year between the Cubs and the Cardinals when Danny Herron was pitching for the Cubs. Threw a curveball, an off-speed pitch, and it hit Matt Holliday on the helmet. Clearly, the situation said that Herron is obviously not trying to hit Matt Holliday. Game went on. Cardinals pitcher hit Anthony Rizzo. You guys remember this? This was I don't know who won that game. I don't really care. The afterward press conference in front of Joe Madden was, well, the Cardinals are a bunch of vigilantes. But this is the Cardinal way. I don't read that book. You guys remember this press conference?
I do.
But the sentiment, at least, right? Like, This is bullshit. They're not going to walk on us anymore. This is over. It's done. It's over right here. The next game, the Cubs hit 3 Cardinal batters. Matheny never retaliated. And Bernie points to that and going, that is where the rivalry switched sides. All of a sudden, Madden had Matheny. Matheny's been scared of him ever since. His teams have been intimidated by the Cubs ever since that happened. I don't know if you guys remember this or not. This is 2015.
September 19th, 2015.
Okay. I think, well, and I've always said this, Pete, right? Without knowing that specific example, without pointing exactly at that, I've always said, right, to you, before we ever started this podcast, which was like over a year later, that I've always thought the second half of 2015 is where it totally changed. Where the Cardinals lost their way. They weren't the Cardinals anymore. They weren't the Cardinals we knew since 2000. It was a different team, different club, different vibe, different feel. Everything was different. So I look at the management of that whole situation of Mike Matheny, and he let another manager get in his head, and I think it's affected him ever since. You guys, give me your take on that situation. Do you think that's valid, or is that like witchcraft?
That, you know what, that very well may be a good point, because that was early enough, right, that it set everything up for when the Cubs and the Cardinals faced each other
for the first time ever in the playoffs.
Right. In the DS. I've actually tracked down an article from NBC Sports on it. And it says, Cubs skipper Joe Madden criticized the Cardinals on Friday when they threw at first baseman Anthony Rizzo, which was ostensibly revenge for Matt Holliday getting hit in the head with a Dan Herron pitch.
With an off-speed pitch.
Right. Madden said after the game, we don't start stuff, but we will stop stuff. So he pretty much signaled that this was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And yeah, Mike Matheny didn't stand up for his players, didn't call for it. And then, it ultimately took 3 batters getting hit before Rondon and Madden were finally ejected. That might be a legitimate item to point at. Similar to 2003, when the Cubs took 4 out of 5 games against Cardinals late in the season. And that was the turning point, I think, for the Cubs season that year, as they made their run to getting eliminated in Game 7 of the NLCS. But, you in retrospect, actually probably not even in retrospect, I think that in the moment you kind of get a feeling for that. And Bernie Miklasz is pointing to it for as long as he's been covering the Cardinals.
No, he hates Mike Matheny, by the way. I mean, anytime he's a shark that detects blood, it's Matheny's blood, and he's all over him.
I get that. But still, I have to think that's not something that you research after the fact and say, oh no, this was it. I would imagine that there was probably a feeling in that press corps that something had changed that day.
Well, I don't think it's a coincidence, Pete, that even a novice, even just a fan like myself, felt a change happen in the second half of 2015, where all of a sudden it's like, this is a crossroads here. Either the Cardinals maintain their ownership of this division and the road to the National League goes through them, or it's, the guard's changing and you haven't kept up. I mean, everybody's using your model now. So you're no longer the quote unquote smartest. People have caught up and maybe they're doing it better than you now. So I think it's a very interesting point in time to point out. It seems to hold a lot of water. I mean, even just that one example. And I can totally see from the manager of my team how he would be intimidated and all of a sudden trumped by a guy like Joe Madden. Even though Joe Madden's batshit crazy. And I clearly expect him someday to walk out on the field with no shoes.
No shoes. I thought you were going to go with
no pants.
Possibly. I mean, possibly he just has a towel around him someday and takes a picture out.
No, he'll be in his tidy whities or boxer briefs and a white
No,
t-shirt.
I think a white towel around him with his hat still on, and take a picture out. I clearly expect Joe Madden to do that someday, but the manager we have, I can kind of detect and sense that he would dread facing another one that's got his number, that just called him out on some incident, and like the guy can never recover from it. So I go back to Waterboy, where the other coach stole his playbook.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and he was defeated by him for the rest of his career, right?
Right.
So that's Mike's Waterboy moment. I think Pete has no idea what we're talking about.
No, I do.
He's trying to fish for it. He's like, Waterboy.
No, I know.
Waterboy, you're fired.
Gatorade. H2O.
Hey, I bought that thing for $5 on iTunes. Worth the purchase.
Yeah.
What thing is that?
Waterboy.
Waterboy.
Oh.
Why would you not own that movie? Really don't know. Guys, that was a triple play. Are we done with that?
We are.
Ground ball. Saddle steps on third. Over to second for one. Throw that ball. It's a triple play. A triple play.
It's a really long triple play.
Yeah.
Oh, brother. Saddle. To Becker. To Hickman. How about that?
Well, we'll get better. Now, here was the fun thing in researching that, right? There was one Cubs triple play more recently, but there was no audio or anything anywhere of it because it happened, I think, in like the late 70s or something. Those are the two most recent triple plays in both Cubs and Cardinals history. So the Cubs one goes back 40 years. The Cardinals one goes back, I think it's 5 years, maybe.
Well, it's Descalso, so yeah.
Yeah.
Recent.
I think it goes
And
back.
I
5 years.
I would totally guess. Like, Pete, if you just asked me randomly, if I didn't know about this, you'd be like, who would have been the one Cardinal that would have been involved in a triple play? I would have said Daniel Descalso.
But then if you look again,
he's not an everyday player, but he was always involved in one of those types of plays, right?
Yep. But if you look before that, I think it was back in the 80s that the Cardinals last turned a triple play. It's such a fluke thing that happens. And yet I think last year the White Sox turned 3 last year. Which is just a testament to
they turned 3 triple plays last year.
They turned 3. I swear to God, because I was doing the research, they turned 3 triple plays last year. It's one of those fluke things. Typically you have to have the runners running.
Did Hawk fly out of his thing, like land in the infield and die?
No, he probably wasn't. He probably wasn't broadcasting because
he probably called it a can of corn.
Is he not there anymore?
He is, but it's actually this year. I think he's only doing like maybe a dozen games.
Really? Okay, I didn't know he was. Okay, sorry.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, he's definitely wandering off into the sunset and taking his time doing so.
Wandering off.
Yep.
But
it's like Westworld, like one of the last robots that was,
And you know what?
I'm
glad the Cubs are not doing the press box until after he retires.
I agree.
Why?
Because he's a prick.
Yeah. I will never step foot in Wrigley Field again. It is the worst dump in all of baseball.
But what about Steve? Steve Stone is right there. Why would you not?
He's fine. Great. No, I like Steve Stone. No, he doesn't do the ball games. He will not come to Wrigley Field, and he will not call the ball games at Wrigley Field.
But is he still a White Sox guy?
Yes.
Oh, okay. He won't come to Wrigley.
No.
Yeah, Hawk will not.
Last year or 2 years ago that Hawk said he
2 years ago.
Wrigley.
Yeah.
Oh. But Steve does or Hawk doesn't? I'm confused.
Hawk doesn't.
Hawk doesn't.
Steve still does.
Steve does, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, you learn something every day.
Don't you?
Anyway, with that said, Pete.
Yes, sir.
Where can everybody find us?
Well, it depends on where they decide they want to look. If we're not live, obviously, you can find us at teamofrivalspodcast.com. We're on Facebook at Team of Rivals Podcast and on Twitter at Team of Rivals Pod. You can find us at Instagram at Team of Rivals Podcast. You can contact us by email at the show at teamofrivalspodcast.com. And you can contact Elliot directly on Twitter at
TOR_Elliot.
Plus, you can catch us anywhere you listen to podcasts: iTunes, Radio Public, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn, and Google Play. And let me just say, if you listen to us on Radio Public, as a new listener, every time a new listener listens to the podcast through that device, you throw $1 our way. And then every subsequent listen gets us another 2 cents. So it costs nothing for you. What I tend to do is I tend to play them at night while I'm asleep because I've already listened to them too many times. But still, the numbers rack up. So give us a listen on Radio Public. Go ahead, stop by the team store at Zazzle. And a week and a half from now, gentlemen, we will all be in the same place. 9 days. 9 days. We will all be in the same place. I think that either at the beginning or at the midway point, we're going to have to recreate episode 4. I think there's going to be some.
Let's not do
flowing.
that. Let's not do that.
We're doing it. Come on, Elliot needs to be inducted.
Just horse piss. Horse piss. Well, Elliot, horse piss in a bottle. But you're going to do.
Oh, geez.
You've had Malort before, haven't you, Elliot?
No, and I never will.
Oh no, you will.
Oh, you will.
I have a really good feeling about this.
You will.
Yeah, you will. You will.
But
All right, everyone. It's been a long night for me.
It has.
It has. But we want to thank Matt Burns for gracing us with his presence.
That was awesome.
Fellow Cardinal fan. The bearded one. The red bearded one. He looked like somebody that came off Game of Thrones and graced us with his presence during our podcast. Got to have him on again. He kicked my ass on a chugging contest. Was it even close, guys?
no.
You should
All
be
right, thank you.
embarrassed.
I am. But I will train.
Or ashamed. Maybe both.
All right, fine. I'll train. I even warmed my beer up so it wouldn't be as cold. And that was it. I tried to give myself an
And that
advantage,
was
and I still fell way short.
Yeah.
But thank that guy for coming on. Definitely got to have him on again. Want to thank everybody else. Jim Cromer for 2 birds on a bat. He continues to shout out our show on every one of his. He doesn't have to do that, but he does it, and so we appreciate that. All the other Josh Potter for the Cardinals podcast network. He puts out every podcast that is any way tied to the Cardinals whatsoever. He does a lot of work for everybody to promote their shows, and he asks nothing for it. So another good guy. If you're listening to this one, you can listen to me next week, right before this show. We started to do these things on Facebook Live. I'm not sure whether they work or not. I'll have to check it out afterwards. But we're having Kyle Reese from Birds on the Black right here. He'll be on next week to talk about the Cardinals minor league system, all the prospects.
Excellent.
That's his specialty.
I assume that's on the CN 24/7 podcast. Not here, right? Because you said right here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I did. Thank you, Pete.
No problem.
Cardinals Nation 24/7 podcast.
Just trying to be clear.
Be on next week. But guys, have a great week. I know we've got a few games, and then we got an All-Star break, which is really a bummer. What are we going to talk about next week?
You'll have plenty of time to entertain you or plenty of things to entertain yourself with on Monday because both Javier Baez and Kyle Schwarber are in the home run derby. So
That's right.
Oh, fun. Yeah, so we have to have a show next Thursday, and then I will take off, and I'll be heading your way, and we'll be together as a happy family.
Excellent.
5 games in Chicago. Holy shit. 5 games.
5 games. The last time they played 5 games, unless I'm mistaken, was 2003. And we all know what happened then.
Oh, God. Yeah, we know what happened then.
Actually,
Moises Alou.
Here's the funny thing about it.
Couldn't bring it home.
Here's what's going to happen based on my previous experience, because I was at both ends of the doubleheader in that 5-game series as well. The Cubs will win the noon start, and the Cardinals will win the nightcap. Just based on my experience from 15 years ago.
I'm going to predict the other way around.
Really? You think the Cardinals take the nooner?
I think they'll take yes, they'll do a nooner and shit the bed at night.
Nice.
I'll take that.
All right, guys. We'll see each other very soon. Brace yourselves.